The process of selecting a Secretary of State in the United States is a complex and crucial undertaking that involves multiple steps and considerations. This high-profile position, often referred to as the nation's top diplomat, plays a vital role in shaping and implementing U.S. foreign policy. Let's delve into the intricacies of this selection process, its historical context, and the importance of the position within the president's cabinet. The selection process, presidential nomination. The process begins with the president's decision to nominate a candidate for the position of Secretary of State. This decision is typically made either during a presidential transition period for a new administration or when there's a vacancy in an existing administration. The president has sole discretion in choosing the nominee, but the selection is usually made after careful consideration and consultation with advisors. Factors influencing the president's choice often include foreign policy expertise and experience, alignment with the president's foreign policy vision, and political considerations, including potential bipartisan appeal management skills to lead the State Department. Personal rapport with the president, vetting process. Once a potential nominee is identified, they undergo a rigorous vetting process. This typically involves background checks conducted by the FBI and other agencies, financial disclosure reviews, ethics evaluations to identify potential conflicts of interest. The vetting process can take several weeks to complete, depending on the complexity of the candidate's background and any issues that may arise. Senate confirmation. After the president formally nominates the candidate, the confirmation process in the Senate begins. This process includes several key steps. Committee hearings. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee holds hearings to question the nominee and assess their qualifications. These hearings can be extensive, often lasting several days. Committee vote. Following the hearings, the committee votes on whether to recommend the nominee to the full Senate. Senate floor vote. If approved by the committee, the nomination moves to the full Senate for debate and a final confirmation vote. The entire Senate confirmation process can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months, depending on various factors such as the Senate's schedule, the political climate, and any controversies surrounding the nominee. Historical context and challenges. The position of Secretary of State has a rich history dating back to the founding of the United States. The first Secretary of State was Thomas Jefferson, appointed by President George Washington in 1790. Since then, the role has been filled by many notable figures in American history, including James Madison, John Quincy Adams, and Henry Kissinger. Throughout history, the nomination and confirmation process for Secretary of State has generally been less contentious than for some other cabinet positions. However, there have been instances of controversy and difficulty. In 2017, Rex Tillerson's nomination by President Donald Trump faced significant scrutiny due to his close ties with Russia as the former CEO of ExxonMobil. His confirmation hearing was contentious, with senators grilling him on his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin and his views on climate change. Despite the controversy, Tillerson was ultimately confirmed by a vote of 56-43, one of the closest votes for a Secretary of State in recent history. John Kerry's nomination in 2013 faced some opposition due to his anti-war activism following his service in Vietnam. However, he was confirmed by a vote of 94-3. Hillary Clinton's nomination in 2009 faced scrutiny due to concerns about potential conflicts of interest related to her husband's global foundation. Despite these concerns, she was approved by a vote of 94-2. Condoleezza Rice's confirmation as Secretary of State under President George W. Bush in 2005 faced some opposition due to her role in the lead-up to the Iraq War. Her confirmation hearing was marked by tough questioning, particularly from Democratic senators. Despite this, she was confirmed by a vote of 85-13. It's worth noting that while these examples show that Secretary of State nominations can sometimes face scrutiny or controversy, none of these nominations were ultimately defeated. In fact, no Secretary of State nomination has ever been rejected by the Senate. Importance of the position. The Secretary of State holds a crucial position within the President's cabinet for several reasons. Foreign policy leadership. As the President's principal foreign policy advisor, the Secretary of State plays a pivotal role in shaping and implementing U.S. foreign policy. They are responsible for conducting negotiations with foreign governments, representing the United States in international forums, and managing diplomatic relations with countries around the world. Department leadership. The Secretary of State heads the U.S. Department of State, which is responsible for implementing foreign policy and managing diplomatic missions worldwide. This involves overseeing a large and complex organization with thousands of employees both in the United States and abroad. National security role. The Secretary of State is a key member of the National Security Council, contributing to critical decisions on matters of national security and foreign policy. Presidential succession. The Secretary of State is fourth in the line of presidential succession, after the Vice President, Speaker of the House, and President pro tempore of the Senate. This underscores the importance of the position within the U.S. government. Treaty negotiations. The Secretary of State is responsible for negotiating treaties and international agreements on behalf of the United States, subject to the advice and consent of the Senate Crisis Management. In times of international crisis, the Secretary of State often takes a leading role in managing the U.S. response and coordinating with allies and international organizations. Public diplomacy. As one of the most visible members of the President's cabinet, the Secretary of State often serves as the face of U.S. foreign policy to the world, engaging in public diplomacy to explain and promote U.S. interests and values abroad. Challenges in the nomination process. While the Secretary of State nomination has historically been less contentious than some other cabinet positions, the process can still present significant challenges. Increased scrutiny. In recent decades, there has been increased scrutiny of cabinet nominees, including for Secretary of State. This includes more rigorous background checks, financial disclosures, and ethics reviews. Political polarization. The growing polarization in American politics can make the confirmation process more challenging, as nominees may face opposition based on partisan considerations rather than qualifications. Global complexity. The increasing complexity of global affairs means that nominees must demonstrate a deep understanding of a wide range of international issues, from traditional diplomacy to emerging challenges like cybersecurity and climate change. Media scrutiny. The 24-hour news cycle and social media have intensified public scrutiny of nominees, potentially amplifying controversies or past statements. Conflict of interest. Concerns, as seen in recent nominations, potential conflicts of interest, whether related to business ties or personal foundations, can complicate the confirmation process. Lessons from history. The history of Secretary of State nominations offers several lessons. Bipartisan support. Successful nominees often garner bipartisan support, reflecting the traditional view that foreign policy should transcend partisan politics. Expertise matters. While political considerations play a role, successful nominees typically have significant foreign policy expertise or diplomatic experience. Personal conduct. As seen in other cabinet nominations, personal conduct and ethical considerations can play a crucial role in the confirmation process. Adaptability. Successful secretaries of state have often needed to adapt to rapidly changing global circumstances and unexpected crises. Relationship with the president. A strong working relationship with the president is crucial for the Secretary of State to effectively carry out their duties. Conclusion. The process of selecting a Secretary of State is a critical undertaking that reflects the importance of the position in shaping U.S. foreign policy and managing international relations. While the nomination and confirmation process can be challenging, it serves as an important mechanism for ensuring that the individual chosen for this vital role has been thoroughly vetted and deemed qualified to serve as America's top diplomat. The historical significance of the position, dating back to the earliest days of the Republic, underscores its enduring importance in the U.S. government. As global affairs continue to grow in complexity, the role of the Secretary of State in navigating these challenges and representing U.S. interests on the world stage remains as crucial as ever. The selection of a Secretary of State is not just a matter of filling a cabinet position. It's a decision that can significantly influence the direction of U.S. foreign policy and the nation's standing in the world. As such, it requires careful consideration by the President in making the nomination, thorough vetting by relevant agencies, and diligent scrutiny by the Senate in its advice and consent role. In an increasingly interconnected world, where diplomatic challenges range from traditional state-to-state relations to transnational issues like climate change, terrorism, and global health crises, the importance of having a capable and experienced Secretary of State cannot be overstated. The rigorous selection process, while sometimes politically charged, ultimately serves to ensure that the individual chosen for this critical role is prepared to face the complex challenges of 21st century diplomacy and to advance the interests and values of the United States on the global stage.